All right, Jaden. Today I'm going to be teaching you about a strategy called activating prior knowledge. Do you know what that means?
That means to use things that you already know.
All right. So you're using what you already know to help you understand something new. That's the key. You hear me? That's the key. It's because if you have prior knowledge and you don't activate it, it's useless, right? You can know something, but if you don't apply it to something new, it's not going to help you in comprehending the new information. So the whole purpose of activating prior knowledge is to recall your prior experiences to aid in your understanding of new information. You understand that? All right. So imagine that we were going to debate the Civil War. In the Civil War, we know that there were two sides. What were they?
The Union Army and the Confederate Army.
All right. So I will put that on my graphic organizer. Union Army and Confederate Army. And I know that the Union was in the what?
The North.
The North, and the Confederate was in the South. Okay. And any other things that I would know. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm predicting the main ideas. You know, I see this text in front of me, and I'm predicting the main ideas. I know the Civil War is going to be about the Union and the Confederate, and then you would do what? Research. You would have to do some research to find out more information. And then I located my topics. That's the second part of the plan. And you put your X for things that you know about, and you put a question mark about things that you don't know. And then when you read the text, you can go back and you can add information. That is the A part of the plan. And then when you are done adding that information, you can go back and note what you learned by restating and reflecting on the information in your own words. So, do you understand the part about the plan? The plan is first predicting the main ideas and using your graphic organizer to put your what we call headings. Then you locate the information that you know a lot about, and the information that you don't know a lot about, using X or what you know about, question mark for what you know little about. And then as you read the text, you're going to add information to your graphic organizer. And then we will note all of that. Any questions? All right. So this is the textbook title that I'm going to model for you. So you see this says, what are your rights? You see that? In bold. Well, here we have basic freedoms, personal protections, equal protection under the law. And then you'll see here, you see those headings there? But we're missing one. So then let's go ahead and fill that in. Equal protection under the law. Excuse me. All right. So can you see that? Come over on this side. You can see it like that. All right. So equal protection under the law. So I'm going to read aloud the headings. I did that. Now we're going to look at this textbook page. So I see here, Equal protection under the law. Do you know a lot about that?
Like the police.
Well, we're just going to see. Equal protection under the law. So I'm going to start up here. What are your rights? Citizens of the United States are guaranteed rights by the U.S. Constitution, state constitutions, and state and federal laws. All citizens have three kinds of rights: basic freedom, protection from unfair government actions, and equal treatment under the law. All right. So citizens' basic rights and freedoms are sometimes called civil rights. Some of these rights are personal and others are political. So for the basic freedoms, they have here freedom of religion, speech, of the press, of peaceful assembly, freedom to petition the government for changes. So you can see here, basic freedoms, they put the civil rights, religion, speech, the press, peaceful assembly, and petition the government. And you see here, petition the government question. So we know little about that. Peaceful assembly. What do they mean by that? I know when we assemble, but what does it have to do with basic freedoms? So you put a question by that.
The right to protest?
The right to protest. So see here, we would have put an X because we know about the peaceful assembly. Excuse me. All right. So here you see what are your rights, and then they want to talk about the personal protections. So here, what's the first one on here?
Freedom from
The
the
first
right
to bear arms. All right. Do you see here? It says right to bear arms. So what do you think we're going to do with the rest of these bullets under personal protections? Write them on your graphic organizer. So here I have one that says freedom from being forced to house soldiers. So I would put freedom, house soldiers. So a personal protection, freedom from being forced to house soldiers. What does that mean? That means that you do not have, say a war was going on in our town and soldiers came to help us. Then we have the freedom to say we are not going to allow soldiers to come into our house and stay. Even though they're here protecting us, they can't just come in our house and eat our food. We have that freedom to protect we have that freedom from being forced to house soldiers. Now, if we want to do it because we want to be nice, we can. But freedom means what? You have a choice. It's not forced upon you. So here we can do that. We can put an X by that. Why? Because I know a lot about it. How do I know a lot about it? Well, let's see. Back in my history and social studies classroom, we had to learn all of these rights, your civil rights. And so I know from this text as well as my prior knowledge. So did you see what I did? I activated my prior knowledge of what I had read in the past, my experience with it in the past, to explain it. Protection from unreasonable search and seizure. That's a good one. Personal protection from unreasonable search and seizure. Do you know what that means? So think about when the police stop you If they just stop you, no tail lights are out, you are not speeding, and then they tell you, get out your car, I'm going to search your car. That's unreasonable search and seizure. If you don't have a reason for stopping me,
Was it
right?
like a smell or something?
No, I mean, you have to state, why did you stop me? And you just can't search my vehicle if you don't have a valid reason. So guess what I'm doing now? All this said was protection from unreasonable search and seizure. What am I doing to explain, to confront this information? I'm activating what?
Your prior knowledge.
Prior knowledge, and then in teaching you, I'm building your knowledge. So I'm kind of doing a bunch of strategies here. I'm activating and building your knowledge as I teach. Okay. Excuse me, I'm still under the weather. All right. So then you see here, we just go ahead and we're going to fill out the rest of these points. The right to a speedy public trial by an impartial jury. Speedy trial. No excessive bail or fines. And then protection from cruel and unusual punishment. All right. So now, remember I told you about this equal protection under the law?
Mm-hmm.
This one says no slavery. So I can fill that out on my graphic organizer. So it says the third category is the right to equal treatment under the law. The government cannot treat one individual or group differently from another. You understand that? Everyone is to be treated equally under the protection of the law. So then we have the right to vote to women. All right. I put my question mark. Then we have the right to vote to 18 years old. So how old do you have to be to vote?
18.
Did you already know that?
Yes.
Oh, look at you.
But on that, it said you have to be 21.
So the right to vote to all male citizens over 21 years old. The right to vote to all male citizens over 21 years old.
After you being now and all over 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put a question by that because that's something I'm curious about. But if we don't find the information in here, then you know what it'll tell you before. You always have to do research. And so these are like when you inquire about something, these inquiry questions. So you're taking the information, you're saying, I want to know, but that's another strategy. We're just trying to activate prior knowledge. All right, and then the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects voting rights and prevents discrimination. So we'll put that one. Act of 1964. And I know a lot about that because I recently have been studying the civil rights movement for my lessons that I'm teaching. So I know that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 came because of, you know, who Rosa Parks is.
Yes.
And you know, she refused to give her seat and all of that. And a result of that movement was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So because I have prior knowledge, I have experiences with the civil rights movement. I can then talk about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So you see that we're adding new information to the chart. All right. So then it finally tells us limits to rights. The rights guaranteed to citizens have sensible limits. For example, the right to free speech does not allow a person to falsely shout fire at a crowded concert. The government may place limits on certain rights to protect national security or to provide equal opportunities for all citizens. And rights comes with responsibilities. So do you understand that? When you have rights, you have to be responsible. So yes, you have a freedom of speech, but are you just gonna go cuss somebody out because you got the freedom to say what you want?
Mhm.
Are you gonna call your teachers names because you have the freedom of speech? No, because with rights come responsibilities, and you want to be an active and productive member of society. And you also want to respect the rights of others. So, hauling fire in a crowded theater, what could happen? We're at the movies and somebody says fire. No, think about it. Why would a fight break out? If somebody says fire, that means the building's on fire. What are we gonna do? Run. So that means 300 people in a movie theater are gonna get up at one time and try to run out. And then what's gonna happen? People are gonna get hurt. So,
and then fights are breaking out.
Well, fights are breaking out and all that, but I'm just saying people could get trampled or killed. Right? Because you're gonna be fighting, right, to try to get out. You're gonna be knocking folks down, and babies are gonna get knocked over, and I mean it's a horrible situation. So that's why we have some limits to our rights. All right. Now, I would like for you. So let's just go over what we did, okay? It's always a good thing. So the P in the plan, when you're activating prior knowledge, you predict the main ideas, right? You plot how those ideas are organized on your graphic organizer. Then you locate the topics you know something about, something you know little about. And then you add information to your chart as you read. And then finally, you note what you learned by restating and reflecting on the information in your own words. So, I'm going to model for you this last step. So, what are your rights? I know that the rights are you have basic freedoms, you have equal protection under the law, and you have personal protections. And protect yourself, right? So, in my own words, I'm saying the basic freedoms, we know that we have the freedom to attend church. We have the freedom to worship any God that we choose to worship. So that would be under the freedom of religion. Freedom of speech. I know that I can say anything that I want to say, but with that right comes responsibilities. In the example of fire, I can't just holler that out because it's endangering the lives of other people. Freedom of the press. Now, they say you can write anything you want to write about somebody, but then I also know from my experiences that you can't just write anything and say anything about somebody because they call that slander. Gossip is different. Gossip can be slanderous, I suppose, but if you print it, you better make sure it's a fact, or you can be sued. So imagine you had a school.
So if you said if somebody at school said that like they stole your chips or something, and then you said it was a fact, and that's
No. Slander is when you say when you falsely accuse somebody of something.
Oh.
When you say something
blaming.
as true, blaming, yeah, slander. So you learn a new word. When you're slanderous, you are stating something, presenting something as fact when in fact it is not. And if you put that in writing, you can get sued. Slander. So yes, you have freedom of the press. So what I'm doing is we've gone over these things, right? But we also learned that there were limits to rights. So now I am saying, oh, we have these basic freedoms. Yeah, they're basic, but there are also limits to it. So just as practice, I want you so I'm going to guide you through this because I know it's your first time. So I'm just going to ask you questions and you kind of tell me what would go there. So in our graphic organizer, we know the first part of the plan step is to do what?
To put your header.
My headings. So with this one, I just used one that I'm going to use when I teach my social studies lesson this coming week. What is it going to be about?
Martin Luther King Jr.
All right. So Martin Luther King Jr. would go here, right? And then we could say, okay, well, what do we know about him? We're going to predict and plot some ideas. So, do you know where he was born?
Mississippi.
Oh. So then, do you know that?
Yeah, Mississippi.
Is that where he's born?
Yeah.
Or is that where he died?
Where he died.
Okay. So, when we activate prior knowledge, this is the catch about it. You got to know it. Right? It's not just guessing. Right? Knowledge is what? Something you know. So we can't activate guesses. We're not activating guesses. Where were you born? You know that, right?
Yes.
You didn't guess and say, I think. This is prior knowledge. So then guess what? What do you know about Martin Luther King?
That he was in the theater and he got assassinated by men. Not like Abraham Lincoln, but.
Okay. He was assassinated. We know that.
Abraham Lincoln.
All right. He was assassinated. What else do we know about Martin Luther King?
That he was a civil rights leader.
All right, so he was a civil rights leader. So then you see here we will be putting these things in different categories. Civil rights leader. All right, so what do you know about his assassination? Do you know a lot about it or just a little? Just a little. So you would put a question mark there, right? What do you know about civil rights?
That civil rights is a movement that tries to stop a certain thing that is, I guess, harmful.
To what? Like?
To the people?
People, right? Because a lot of times people get confused and they say civil rights is a African American or black thing. Civil rights has something to do with that, but it's
William Lloyd Garrison.
Yeah, and you have different people who stand up for the rights of people. The civil rights movement of the 1960s happened to be about black people, but then there were other things that people were fighting for. Like the rights of women, women's rights, the LGBTQ plus community. lesbian, gay, transgender,
Oh.
civil rights for those people as well. Because civil rights is what? Equality for all people who are citizens of the United States. And I'm even learning something in my research that civil rights, even people who are illegal aliens, they have access to some basic.
Did you say aliens?
Yeah, that's what they call them, illegal aliens.
It's immigrants.
An immigrant.
Yes.
Yes, Jay.
Alien.
He's an alien. So anyway. I am miserable. Anyway. So you understand what you're doing. So now you're going to do some reading. You put an X by something you were sure about. You put a question mark by that. That's locating which of these topics you know something about and which topics you know little about.
Martin Luther King was born in Georgia in 1929.
All right. So then we can put that on our list. He was born in Georgia.
His father was a minister and his mother was a teacher. Like his father, Martin became a minister at age 18.
Okay.
And he got a doctorate degree in theology at Boston University in 1953. He married Coretta Scott. Oh, well, I don't know exactly where he went to. He got a doctorate degree, but I do know he married Coretta Scott and they started a family.
Okay.
Until this time in the South, even though they were no longer slaves, black people were not treated as equals. That.
Okay.
They did not have equal civil rights, no that. They had to remain separate from white people in public areas. I knew that. They couldn't drink in the same water fountain, swim in the same pool, or sit together on a bus. I knew that.
All right. So you're saying that you know that, all right? That's good. That's good that you're saying that you know that this is something that you're familiar with. But you're using that knowledge.
Yes.
You got to activate that knowledge to help you better understand the text. So that's the whole purpose of activating prior knowledge.
In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the city bus to a white passenger.
Now, let's think about that. What do you know about that time that makes that statement weird?
Because the black people normally in that time, like they would just, so if they were on the bus and they were at a water fountain or something, and they would just give it up because I would just give mine up because I didn't want to get killed or tortured.
Right. And so.
And then like they had to follow what they did. And so, they were like below their level.
Right. So I want to, I'm glad that you're saying that because I want to hone in the point that activating prior knowledge, we have to make sure that it is, I guess, not a misconception because the text stated that there were separate water fountains. So do you think that a black person could have drank out of a water fountain that was made only for whites? If they were separate water fountains? It wasn't like if you were standing in line, you had to get out of line for them. That means that there was a water fountain here and a water fountain maybe on the side of the house. You drank out of that one, you drank out of that one. You better not have drank out of a water fountain. So just make sure you're not giving up your seat confused with a water fountain. Now the bus system was integrated. But as far as drinking out of the same water fountain, mm-mm, they didn't do that at that time. You know, you judge people by their time and their place because guess what? It was the law.
But they have to be separated.
Yeah, separate but equal. It was a law.
Mhm.
And but the bus system said that as long as there were seats available, then black people could sit towards the front of the bus. But if a white passenger came, they would have to move to the back of the bus.
Seats were full up there?
Yeah, you would have had to give your seat up. And she said she was tired of excuse me, I'm gonna be sick all week. Okay. She said that she was tired of the treatment. She wasn't physically tired. She was tired of being treated that way. So you see how you use what you know and you build on that knowledge when you're introduced to new information.
She was arrested by the police. People were outraged by her arrest. It was unfair that a white person should deserve to have more rights than a black person. That's just an opinion. But blacks.
What did you say? Read that again to me.
I said it was unfair that a white person should deserve to have more rights than a black person.
And you said that's an opinion?
Yeah.
That's not an opinion.
How? Because you could. Well, if somebody said they wanted that blacks should have. Like,
this is what I'm saying.
Rights.
The reason that's an opinion, but to me, that's not an opinion. Under the law, you know, at this particular time, you could say, well, that was the law, but that is no longer the law. And so if someone feels that way, yes, that's their opinion, but their opinion doesn't make it fact.
Oh,
that's what I'm trying to say. That's an opinion. Doesn't make it fact.
This is all opinions. Blacks and whites should have an equal civil rights. Is this a law or is this an opinion?
Well, at this time, what was it?
Opinion.
Did they have equal civil rights?
Yes.
Did they?
No, they didn't.
Then what would be the purpose of having a civil rights movement if everything was equal? And it's my opinion that today things are not equal.
In order to show their anger, they refused to ride the bus. The young minister, Martin Luther King, was asked to organize the bus boycott in Montgomery. Isn't that like the KKK bus?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I'm thinking about something else. Rosa Parks.
Well, you're thinking about the Freedom Riders when they went to, they intentionally got on buses and rode around to challenge.
Martin became a powerful voice in the struggle for African American civil rights. Yeah, a lot of people did go to him, so I know that. His most famous speech was "I Have a Dream." That's mostly all I know about him.
Mm-hmm.
And he believed, as did most other people, that blacks should have been created equally, as started in the Declaration of Independence and Emancipation Proclamation.
Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, so that's good. So we added information to the chart as you read it. All right. A lot of the things you already knew. But what did you learn from reading that?
I did not know he was born in Georgia.
Okay.
I thought he was born in Memphis, but I guess I got that confused with him dying in Memphis.
All right. Did you know that his parents, his dad was a minister, his mom was a teacher?
Yes.
So these are facts and things that you picked up, you know, during your reading about Martin Luther King. And you're able to note these changes and reflect on the information in your own words. Well, I thank you, Jaden, for participating with me today. And just as a closure, can you explain to me what activating prior knowledge means? What's the purpose behind activating prior?
Activating prior knowledge is if you don't know something, then you already know that is similar to that, then you use that knowledge that you already knew about that certain thing that's similar to it, you use that to the other thing that you don't know, and then you can know that, and then you can use that.
All right. So, just in my educating you as your father, I'm sorry, Miss Sanders, I gotta educate him about using the term that. That, what are you talking about? Use that too many times.
That is
the what? Be specific. Prior knowledge. So you stop using that and that and that and that. Recalling your prior experiences, because you're building your vocabulary. It'll be another strategy that you'll learn. But because Miss Sanders is my teacher, and I'm getting off subject, but I'm getting in the habit of correcting things when I see them. So you say that. So good explanation and putting in your own words. But remember, I told you that and this and that and this and that doesn't work. What are you talking about? You lost me. So activating prior knowledge. You said that you recall the prior knowledge to use it for that. Use it for what? The new what? Information. So you have to say that you're using your prior knowledge to help you comprehend the what?
The information.
What information?
The information that you don't know.
The information that you have been confronted with within text. So you got your topics and your subtopics, right? Remember, we got to use academic language, not all this that. All right? So then what are the planned steps? What is the P in plan? So what are you doing?
Predict.
Predict what?
Main ideas.
Okay, and then you do what with those main ideas?
You locate them.
Okay, and then when you're locating the main ideas, you're using a graphic organizer, right? So you use that graphic organizer, you organize your ideas. You put topic, main topic, then you have subtopics, right? Then what do? You locate. That's the L in the plan.
You add.
No. What do we do when we locate?
We locate.
There are two steps. An X and a question mark. What do we do?
You use the X for things that you do. I mean, X is what you know, and question mark is what you don't know.
Okay. Then after you locate that information, you read the selection, and this strategy can be applied to textbooks. It can be applied to any literature. Doesn't just have to be when you're reading your chapter books for accelerated reader. You can apply that strategy. Because all activating prior knowledge is doing is helping you understand. You're using your experiences to draw inferences, right? Make those connections. So you remember how Miss Sanders, not Miss Sanders, but Miss Sanders when you were in the third grade.
What?
How Miss Sanders and your teacher in the third grade, when she tell you to make connections.
Miss Sanders was not in the third grade, well.
Fourth grade. And she told you to, draw inferences. Where were you drawing inferences from? How did you know to say, well, I think this is going to happen?
Yes.
Like if the boy spilled the milk, all right, and his dad, he heard the door shut, and then she stopped the book and she said, "Okay, what do y'all think is gonna happen?" He dropped the milk. The dad is coming home. What do you think's gonna happen? And you say,
Who dropped the milk?
the son.
And the mom shuts the door.
No, the dad is coming. So what do you think's gonna happen?
So he's going to spill. I mean, he's not going to see the milk and he's going to choke.
Okay.
It's a fall.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's one thing to say.
Or he's going to get mad.
Well, how are you getting this information?
Because I think the milk. Because
No. What are you
it's
doing?
A liquid, and
No.
using my prior knowledge.
You're using your knowledge. You know that if milk is on the floor, you know it's a possibility that the dad may not see it and slip, right? Or you know that if the dad had told the child, months ago where to eat at the table, not in the room, not in the living room, right? And the child was somewhere they weren't supposed to be, then the dad probably would get upset and say something like "no game for the rest of the week" or whatever, because you'd be using your prior knowledge, your prior experiences to draw that inference. Well, thank you, Jaden, so much, and thank you, Miss Sanders.